Imagine a world where we all are the same, where we all are the same race, wear the same clothes, have the same lifestyle, listen to the same music, and have the same culture. Imagine a world where different countries have monopolies on basic utilities and products. This type of utopia is called globalism, and it is the direction where the world has been going on for more than 100 years at this point. But not anymore. Why am I saying this? Let's find out. First and foremost, let's define what globalism is. There are two types of globalism: economic globalism and cultural globalism. Let's talk about the former. Economic globalism is the idea where different countries focus on making one or a few products, creating a monopoly on that specific product. Let's say China produces the most grains, while Venezuela produces the most oil, Germany produces the most cars, and Italy produces the most clothes. Those are hypotheticals. I know China produces all of those things, but bear with me, okay? Those countries produce so much of those products, they have a surplus and have no use for that extra production. So they trade with another country that has a surplus of another product, and both parties benefit from it. This is called global trading. We as humans have been doing it for as long as civilization existed. From the early days when we lived in small tribes, to the ancient period where we lived in villages and later in big cities, to the colonization and discovery era, to today, the 21st century. This is called trading. And if you do it at a global scale, global trading. Globalism is the idea that we are interdependent with each other to provide each other with different products, sometimes even basic products and basic utilities. But this idea is flawed, ethically wrong, and sometimes downright evil. Why am I saying this? Well, because imagine if a big country doesn't want to play ball anymore and decides to cut ties with the country that is dependent on them for that basic product. You would say, okay, so what? They can trade with other countries. And I would say, yeah, but those countries are further away and they have to pay double or even triple the price for the same quantity of products. Another example, let's say a country invades another country and then they get sanctioned and they can no longer sell their surplus of, let's say, oil and gas. Do you think they will starve? No, of course not. They will trade those products with other countries. You see the beauty of globalism? It's like a double-edged sword, can cut both ways. And of course, economic globalism is driven by consumerism and the basic economic law of supply and demand that we all know. But more often than not, the demand for a product is artificially inflated or deflated by the powers that be, and of course, propaganda to some extent. But I digress. Following Russia's invasion of Ukraine that started in 2022 and their eventual sanctions, the globalist capitalist system has begun to show its weakness and was shattered from its very core. We thought that if we trade goods with other countries with different cultures, different traditions, different core values, different temperaments, different ambitions, we thought that we would forever live in peace, harmony, and prosperity. We would thought that we would be friendly, right? Right? Wrong! But sometimes you have to wake up and smell the coffee. Ah, fuck, it smells like shit! Ah, ain't that a kick in the head, am I right? Because USA demanded that all the countries that condemned Russia to cut any economical ties with them. And they did. For about 12 minutes. Because thanks to globalism, those smaller countries need the Russian oil, gas, and grains. Furthermore, the Biden administration was trying to promote and finance domestic manufacturing of products. Let's hear it from Biden himself.
American Jobs Plan will put engineers and construction workers to work building more energy-efficient buildings and homes. Electrical workers, IBEW members installing 500,000 charging stations along our highways so we can own the electric car market. Farmers planting cover crops so they can reduce the carbon dioxide in the air and get paid for doing it. Look, think about it. There is simply no reason why the blades for wind turbines can't be built in Pittsburgh instead of Beijing. No reason. None. No reason. So, folks, there's no reason why American workers can't lead the world in the production of electric vehicles and batteries. I mean, there is no reason. We have the capacity. We're the brightest, best trained people in the world. The American Jobs Plan is going to create millions of good-paying jobs Americans can raise a family on. As my dad would then say, with a little breathing room. And all the investments in the American Job Plan will be guided by one principle: buy American. Buy American. And I might note parenthetically, that does not violate any trade agreement. It's been the law since the 30s. Buy American. American tax dollars are going to be used to buy American products made in America to create American jobs. That's the way it's supposed to be, and it will be in this administration.
That's a pretty cool idea, you old geezer. However, it's easier said than done because, frankly, you Americans are fucking lazy. And it's much cheaper to buy products from China, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, am I right? This is the direction the Western world is trying to go in, and that is the direction of de-globalization. A return to a more localized trading and manufacturing of goods. But don't be naive. That's not for the benevolent and altruistic or nationalistic concern for your fellow countrymen. No. That's bullshit. They're afraid of this fucking behemoth. China. Now I dare you, Google this. Country with largest production of grains, cars, textiles, and electronics. I'll wait. Okay. You know what? Fuck it. It's fucking China. This large economic behemoth that in the past 20 years has dominated the markets all over the globe. Why? Because of global trade, and they opened up to the world to make products for the rest of the world, while being ruled by a totalitarian communist state. Communism on paper. At this moment, China is more capitalistic than USA. Oh, fuck. What a timeline to be alive, am I right? Because God forbid if a direct conflict with China is started, even if they agree to never use nuclear weapons, we will go from our comfortable consumer global culture and society to a Mad Max global society in less than a decade. Because a global conflict will lead to global shortages of basically everything because our interdependency of global trade. And this leads me to the second type of globalism, and that is cultural globalism. Oh my god, this is where the horror begins. Cultural globalism is the idea where we have a global monoculture, where we dress the same, listen to the same music, watch the same movies, follow the same trends, have the same political ideology. Oh wait, this is the direction we're going on right now, isn't it? Fuck. Not only globalization is ugly on the outside, it is soulless on the inside. Look at the outside. We all dress with the same plain blue jeans. All the politicians dress with the same corporate suits. All people dress in the same comfortable, ugly clothes. Comfort destroys identity and beauty in the process. Look at the past where we differentiated from each other just by our clothes. Look at this. Russia then, Russia now. China then, China now. Japan then, Japan now. Europe, the most diverse continent with the most diverse cultures and clothing. Now they all look the same. And of course, look at the buildings. How beautiful and diverse they looked in the past. Compared to today, all the buildings are the same cubes of glass metal and concrete, only gray and dark blue shades. I made a dedicated video about the decline of architectural art. After you watch this video, check it out, okay? And I think a big factor in this downgrade is our need for utility, our need for comfort and practicality. Everything today has to have some practical use so that we can squeeze as much profit from it as possible. Doesn't matter the final outcome. Doesn't matter how it affects the mind of the people. Doesn't matter the long-term repercussions. Only profit matters. Our need for utilitarianism has led us into this downward spiral, a vicious circle where we focus only on consumerism and consumer culture. But I digress. I'll make a dedicated video in the future where I will foam at the mouth and have 3 strokes because of my anger with consumerism. Cultural globalism cannot be achieved without immigration. More specifically, mass immigration, but is not always a two-way street, because I don't see millions of Europeans migrating to the Middle East or to Africa. Only the opposite. But if it was the case, I'm still not in favor for mass immigration of Europeans into African or Middle Eastern countries. Because when a number of people from different regions settles into another faraway region, they bring their culture with them. They bring their tradition, their customs, and of course, they bring their problems with them. Just ask Sweden, how they invited millions of immigrants all over the world, and now they are the capital of rape in Europe. Ah, smell that cultural enrichment. Globalism is in direct conflict with all the cultures around the globe. You might say that I'm a conspiracy theorist or a lunatic or a schizo, but this is a plan that is in the making for many decades at this point. Why? To control us, of course. In the brilliant words of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, to kill a people, you must sever their roots. And the elites around the globe have figured it out how to do it without massive bloodshed and destruction like in World War I and World War II. You know, it is easier to let themselves breathe out of existence and mix with each other. Why am I saying this? Because when you have a race, a nation, a tribe, a common culture, people can get behind that. And that brings people together. Culture, heritage, race brings people together, not a melting pot. This thing makes us antagonistic because it is in our nature to be tribalistic. And of course, dear viewer, I know you have seen it with your own eyes and understood that this is what is shoved down our throats by the European Union, by the movie industry, through propaganda, of course. And the retarded and idiotic phrase that diversity is our strength. In their sick minds, the idea of diversity means every city, every country should be this melting pot of cultures and races. This is chaos, because they need chaos. This way they can control all of us easier. How can you control a people that is united under one culture? You cannot. That nation is a strong nation. And this doesn't end here. This sick ideology of, I don't even know how to call it, let's say gay satanic communism that is shoved down our throats aims to make us one race. And they say the human race. Fuck, that's cringe as fuck. Cultural globalization kills diversity. Cultural globalization kills racial identity. Of course, they have to erase the idea of racial identity. This way, all of us in, let's say, 200 years will be the same race. We will all be mutts. We will all be half-breeds that are easy to control and manipulate. And this will kill any real diversity and beauty the world has to offer. When you mix cultures, you destroy both cultures. When you mix races, you destroy the beauty of both races. This ideology of cultural globalism is disguised as this benevolent utopia in which we all hold hands together and we live in perfect harmony and sing kumbaya. This is bullshit. It can never be achieved this way. When you are friends with everyone, in reality, you're friends with no one. Friendship means discrimination, yes. You are friends with this person and not that person. So you discriminate against that other person? Tribalism means discrimination, yes. Nationalism means discrimination, yes. Every religion in the world discriminates against something. And this ties in with the changing of the meaning of words. The word discrimination has a very bad reputation. Discrimination in layman terms means I like this, but I don't like this. Okay, I like this culture, but not this culture. Ooh, what an evil word the word discrimination is. And this was propagated by Marxism, of course. And on the other side, by the cultural American imperialism, where USA exported their culture all over the globe through different means, of course, because most countries have McDonald's. Most countries have Coca-Cola. Most countries watch Disney and so forth. You get the gist. You get the idea. USA has used globalism to export their culture and their goods all over the world up until this point. At this moment, China is slowly replacing them. But China at this moment does only the economic part of globalism. As of today, they do not export their culture. Not yet, at least. Let's hope it stays that way. You know what? I am very biased. I admit it. I am a nationalist. I love my country. I love the continent I grew up in, Europe. I am very Eurocentrist. And I acknowledge and I love all its flaws. But my question to globalism is, why? Why should Europe be dependent on China? Why should Europe be dependent on USA? Why should Europe be bullied by USA to suit their evil interests? Why should Europe be the guinea pig for this diabolical experiment that is globalism? And why should Europe welcome all the immigrants? You European motherfuckers better pop up some babies, because I'm beyond enraged at this point. Because I refuse to give in to commodity. I refuse to accept the death of Europe. I refuse to accept economic prosperity that isn't even prosperity for the people, but prosperity for the rich and the mega corporations. I refuse to let my people be bred out of existence and be replaced, because I realized that your tribe and your family means everything. I would rather be homeless. I would rather eat from a dumpster than not having my family. I would rather die in a swamp of a white Europe than live in a palace of a multicultural Europe. The idea of nationalism was tried to be erased for more than 100 years by now. And there are some signs that Europe is beginning to wake up from this globalist comfortable slumber. A rude awakening for Europe would be when they will begin to skip some meals, when they will see their electricity bills going through the roof, when they will see their daughters get raped by immigrants. This will be the time when Europe will say, fuck it. It's time to go back to our heritage, go back to our national pride, our national identity, our racial identity, and to some extent Europe is slowly going into that direction. I made a video dedicated to this specific topic right here, and please click it, watch it, and please, for the love of God, wake the fuck up already.